Pull up closer. Don't look back at the tree line. Just watch the embers. There are places in this world where the earth forgets how to digest. Up in the northern stretches, in the black, sodden heart of Jutland, the ground doesn't swallow the dead to turn them back into dust. It cures them. It cradles them. It waits.
You step onto those Danish moors after the sun drops below the heather, and you'll feel it instantly. A stillness that isn't peace. It's an order, a command from the water beneath your boots. The air turns cold first, not a sharp mountain frost, but a heavy, damp chill that smells of crushed roots, stagnant water, and old copper. The animals know. The birds go quiet in the sedge. The wind doesn't blow through the moss. It sinks into it, muffled, smothered, killed on impact. You'll hear your own heart hammering in your ears before you hear a single rustle from the scrub. Because the bog doesn't allow noise. The bog demands silence. 2,000 years ago, the people who lived along those dark waters knew why. They knew the marsh wasn't just dirt and rain. It was a door. And whatever lives on the other side of that door demands a price.
They call it sphagnum, a pale green carpet of moss that chokes out the sky from the water below. Layer upon layer, dying for thousands of years, decaying without air, bleeding a quiet, invisible acid into the dark. A pH so low, so bitter, between 3.5 and 4.5, that cold, oxygen-poor water and acidic chemistry stall the bacteria that normally consume a body. As the moss dies, it releases a complex polysaccharide called sphagnum. It interferes with bacterial growth and helps bind the chemistry of the bog to the body, while humic acids stain and chemically tan human skin into dark, heavy, waterproof leather. The acidic water leaches calcium phosphate from bone tissue, leaving the skeleton soft, flexible, or completely demineralized, while the overlying skin remains pristine. The hair shifts to a violent ginger red, dyed by humic compounds. The face darkens into a bronze mask. Every line on the forehead, every ridge on the fingertips, every hair on the jaw, locked in place, suspended. Maybe they weren't throwing away garbage. Maybe they were sending messengers. In Denmark's early Iron Age, more than 2,000 years ago, a man walked out into the marsh. His last meal was a thick, coarse porridge of barley, flax, and wild seeds. Recent analysis also suggests he had eaten fish. Some of those seeds were weeds normally removed during threshing. That may have been deliberate. It may have been ritual. Or it may simply have been the meal of a poor man, eating what was available. We cannot know. But we do know this. The porridge was cooked, swallowed, and preserved inside him for more than 2,000 years. They stripped him naked, save for a pointed cap of sheepskin tied tight under his chin and a smooth leather belt around his waist. Then they took a length of braided hide. They looped it around his neck. The evidence suggests that he died by strangulation, probably suspended by the leather noose. Archaeologists cannot tell us exactly how the final minutes unfolded. But imagine. And when the movement stopped, they didn't toss him aside. They gently closed his eyelids. They reached down into the freezing water and pressed his lips shut. They drew his knees up to his chest, placing him in a sleeping posture, resting, peaceful. We call him the Jutland man. When peat cutters dug him up in 1950, 2,000 years later, the stubble on his face was still visible, as if he had shaved only days before. He looked like he had fallen asleep 20 minutes ago, dreaming under 2 meters of black earth. You can almost imagine the dry, bitter scent of ancient moss and leather drifting from his skin as the sun hit it for the first time in millennia. And he was not an isolated case. Not far away lay the Elling woman, her long hair braided into an intricate harness, strangled by a leather thong. Over in Nebelgard, they found the Grauballe man, naked. His throat opened from ear to ear, an iron blade severing his esophagus and windpipe in a single stroke. Traces of ergot, a parasitic fungus that grows on grain, were found among the remains of his final meal. Whether it was accidental contamination or deliberate dosing, we cannot know. But if anyone understood what that fungus could do, inducing hallucinations, burning spasms, and madness, he may have entered the bog already burning from the inside. And down at Harold's Care, a woman was found beneath branches and wooden poles that pinned her body into the peat. Whether they held her down alive or held a corpse in place has never been settled. Why burn your dead on funeral pyres for centuries, but choose these few to lie forever in the damp and dark? Because the fire destroys. Fire frees the spirit, sends it up into the smoke, gone forever. But the bog is a vault. When an Iron Age village faced the end, when the frost wouldn't break, when the crops rotted in the furrow, when famine gnawed at the bellies of their children, they didn't want to send a message that vanished into the sky. They needed an anchor, a proxy to stand before whatever powers they believed lived beneath the water. They placed silver cauldrons in the mud. They carved wooden idols from ancient oak, with towering phallic shapes and empty, staring eyes, thrusting them upright into the peat. They broke the swords of entire armies and sank them into the silt. And then they gave the water what it wanted most of all: soft, uncorrupted flesh. Listen to me. Across Denmark, There is an old saying for the fog that gathers over the marshes. Mos Konen Brugger. The marsh woman is brewing. A thick, milk-white fog crawls out of the peat. It doesn't rise from the sky. It bleeds out of the moss, knee-deep, smothering the heather until you can't tell if you're standing on solid earth or floating over what feels like 3 meters of black fluid. The fog changes the sound. High noises seem to die almost instantly. A snap of a dry twig doesn't carry 10 feet. The wet air swallows it. But the low sounds, the deep vibrations, seem to travel across the entire open moor. And then it starts.
A low, rhythmic hum descends from the gloom. It sounds like a goat bleating in the dark sky. It sounds like a wooden reed vibrating inside an ancient instrument. It starts soft, swells into a thumping vibration that rattles the bones in your chest, and then dies away into the mist. Modern ears will tell you it's just a bird, the common snipe. They'll tell you it's just air rushing through the bird's stiff outer tail feathers as it dives through the fog at 40 kilometers an hour. A mechanical trick of velocity and air resistance. But stand out there alone when the fog wraps around your waist and the smell of ancient leather rises from the mire beneath your boots. You tell yourself it's a bird, and then you remember what lies 2 meters directly below where you're standing. A man with a rope still knotted around his neck, his eyelids closed, his skin intact, waiting, listening. He hasn't rotted in 2,000 years. What makes you think he's dead? If you ever walk the moors of Silkeborg or Nibelgard after sundown, keep your mouth shut. Don't call out into the mist. Don't sing. Don't laugh. The people of the Iron Age didn't enforce absolute silence on the bogs because they were afraid of disturbing the dead. They kept quiet so the dead